Good morning. And today, Jenny and I are going to talk about the post-lockdown recovery 2 survey, which ActiveIQ sponsored this year. So I'd just like to say a big thank you to Jenny and ActiveIQ, because without that sponsorship, it's very difficult for us to cover our costs around these surveys. But we do create some fantastic insight for the sector. So a big thank you to Jenny from that point of view. So Jenny, just give us a quick overview of what ActiveIQ are up to at the moment before we talk about the survey.
Business as usual, like everybody else, but still working from home. Would never have thought it this far into the year, but here we all still are. As people probably know, we develop and quality assure qualifications. So from that perspective, this year's been incredibly busy creating adaptations for delivery for qualifications, adaptations for assessment, working with our regulators and with CIMSPA to ensure that we're all agreed on what those adaptations are. Obviously we were extremely busy with that in the first lockdown, so the second lockdown we were in a much better position. And all of our training providers know what they can and can't do. So, but it's still a lot of support for those providers, just helping them navigate their way around different qualifications, what's allowed, what's not allowed. You know, and it doesn't make it easy. You know, the adaptations, you know, putting those adaptations into practice is often harder than doing an assessment in normal circumstances. So we've been very busy with all of that, very busy in the summer with our tech levels for colleges, applying calculator results for those, not in the same way as for GCSEs and A-levels. That went smoothly, but it's been a busy time. Just relieved also for our centres that gyms have reopened, so that if they can use gym facilities, obviously with capacity issues, they can. So, you know, obviously like everybody else, pushing for that.
Absolutely, but I guess the positives in this is actually if you do get through your assessment in this for a PT or a level 3 or whatever the qualification is that you're doing, actually you've done it in what is a really quite tough time. So it's almost going to an extreme, so that actually when you get back to whatever normal will be, you've actually experienced the extreme. So that must be quite a powerful positive from this for you guys. Yes,
and I think if anything, our providers and their learners have had to be more creative, more broad-minded about what they do, and I think, you know, when it comes to the whole issue of communication skills and instructors and fitness professionals, I think that it's made that obviously even more important if you're doing something on screen, to be able to get your message across. You know, the communication skills have come into the fore, and we've heard really positive things about how those skills have been developed during this time, and how it's been so necessary to really put that to the forefront of what those instructors are doing.
Absolutely, and I guess that links really well to the survey, because, you know, we've got, I think, 33,544 pieces of consumer data. The data is really interesting because it comes from 62 operators, which is a really good spread across the country and operator type. But more importantly, it's the insight. It's what do we do with that? And I think what you've just related to there is absolutely the case. You know, we've got nearly a quarter of our customers saying the most important things to them are the staff friendliness and the support that the staff team give. Now, of course, those staff have to be qualified. And you just linked into that soft skill really well there. So is that one of the reasons you were interested in sponsoring the survey and getting some of the insight and data out of it?
Yes, I think, well, firstly, because we're, you know, massively supportive of the sector, and need, you know, as disappointed as everybody was when the gyms closed, because we, you know, like everybody else in our sector, we do regard them as an essential service. We are supplying through our providers the workforce for that service, because it can't run itself. And I think the importance of people, and it's not overlooked, but perhaps sometimes underestimated, the impact that personal trainers, individuals, professionals in the gym have, you know, in their interaction with the members. And I think, if anything, the survey has demonstrated, you know, and I've said this in quotes, people need people. You can exercise to your heart's content outside, running, walking, cycling, etc. But sometimes you need people around you, you need people to motivate you, you need people to communicate with. And I think particularly for many individuals during lockdown, they need somewhere to go outside of their four walls where they may have been on their own to interact with another human. You know, it's ridiculous really that we should be even thinking that, but I think, you know, people are very grateful to be going back to our facilities to be able to engage with the professionals that work within those four walls.
Absolutely, and I think that the survey also showed that 76% of people scored a 9 or a 10 on confidence levels for the COVID precautions that these sites were putting in place. And of course, nearly every single COVID precaution is based on somebody doing something. It's that people piece that you've just referred to there. So has any of this sort of learning development that you're thinking about, have we been doing some more work on reinforcing standards and systems, what I call the foundations of operations?
Yes, I mean, we've got a CPD skills hub as well as our qualifications offer. So from that perspective, there's been return to facilities, return to work, CPD, that other suppliers have produced for our skills hub that we've been supporting and providing free of charge to the sector, to just as bite-sized pieces of CPD to support the industry. It's not a quick fix to put anything new into a qualification. Right. And then qualifications depend on standards, and obviously we work with CIMSPA in their development of professional standards. So I would imagine it's something that CIMSPA might be considering moving forward at how we might look at those extra precautions that are needed for the sector within standards and therefore ultimately within qualifications.
No, absolutely, and it's certainly not. As you know, I'm an elected member of CIMSPA's board as a trustee, and it's a conversation we have a lot around those soft skills, those interactivity pieces. And I think from my personal view, there's also something. There's an opportunity. You talked about running and cycling, and yes, people do want to get back into sites, but actually, I think people want to be able to run or cycle better. And I think there's some real opportunity around that, which I'm certainly influencing and trying to get people to think about looking out of their leisure centre rather than looking in all the time.
Yeah,
I guess will filter through eventually.
A really interesting point, because we've thought about the journey for a gym instructor, personal trainer, and there's much more around, you know, there's a gym instructor, but there's an instructor who isn't in the gym, and we have qualifications already that focus on training in different environments. But I think we can work more with that to future-proof us and the whole workforce for whatever happens in the future, so that there isn't just, you know, one route to Rome in terms of getting to that stage where you might be a personal trainer in a gym, but there's working in different environments. There's personal training, obviously, in different environments. So there's a much broader scope available and could be really focused on moving forward, I think.
No, absolutely, and you know, that is the value of doing these types of bits of research. It creates those nuggets, those bits of insight that allow us to start really considering what our customer needs are, and actually our non-customers, because a lot of these people actually don't interact with us currently because we haven't got that they want to interact with. So I'm so pleased we were able to repeat the survey, and you know, when people get to see the report, which we've been able to give free because of your sponsorship, people will be able to compare and see where movement is. And the scariest number for me is the reduction in steps and reduction in physical activity over lockdown 2 compared to lockdown 1. And of course, it's the seasons, and it's the dark, and it's the wet, and it's the cold. But I also think it's a big opportunity for us to change, and I'm really pleased that, you know, you're already thinking down that route. That's very, very positive.
And I think all those results, you know, they're really fantastic for us to inform not just our qualifications, but our CPD offer as well, and really look at what people are saying, what people are needing, and tailor the service towards that. So it's very useful from our perspective as well. It's a great result.
Thank you. You've got a minute left, Jenny. Just give us what do you want to see different coming out of this? What would you like us to have really learned and really implemented as a result of this, from a workforce point of view or a sector point of view? I don't mind.
What would we like to see different coming out of COVID?
Yeah.
Oh Lord, there's a tricky one. I think what it's done is opened people's eyes up into how differently things can be done. You know, with qualifications, it can be a little bit narrow-minded. You have to do this, you have to do this, that's the parameters. And we've opened that up through negotiation and collaboration. And that has been a massively important thing, that you realise there are so many different ways to get to an end goal, an outcome. It doesn't have to be one road. And I think, you know, to keep that flexibility, that broad-mindedness about different ways of achieving, you know, the goal is really important. And I think in all walks of life, in terms of COVID, we've all seen very different ways of achieving things, and that flexibility and responsiveness I just would like to see carry forward, you know, as we come out of this strange time, and, you know, to keep that, and the collaboration around that that's enabled that to happen, and keep working together more closely.
Absolutely, and I think that has to be a route going forward, Jenny. So that's a really nice point to end this on. I'm going to say it again. Thank you to ActiveIQ for supporting this. I'm really pleased we were able to deliver it again in partnership with you guys. So Jenny, thank you for your time. You take care, and we will see you soon. Okay, bye bye.